I'm going to give Markiplier's Iron Lung a 5 out of 10. Here is my full review of the film. I'm going to start by saying I loved the concept, I loved the setting, I think they did a lot to build the atmosphere from the start. It was a really, really cool idea. I've not played the video game, I didn't know of the source material before this, so that I'm going into blind. I think the introduction to the characters was really interesting. We started to care about our main character quite quickly. They gave us a lot to think about from the start. But this does lead itself into one of its potential downfalls, which is I feel like we had a lot to sink our teeth into at the start, but by the end, some of it was just never really resolved, and also there was quite a bit of empty space between the start and the finish where they could have filled in some of those gaps for us, but instead maybe just left us with more questions. Now, I need you to know I don't mind when a film doesn't give us all the answers, especially in a horror film that is supposed to be quite cerebral, sort of sci fi. There is going to be mysteries that never get answered because that's part of the horror. But if that is the case, then I think the film needs to set itself up from the start to feel that way. It started in a way that made us think we would get all the answers, but then by the end, we still hadn't gotten a lot of them. Now, I usually watch films with subtitles, and so a lot of this context might have been lost on me due to the fact that I found the dialogue hard to understand. The radio was crackling, there was people speaking over each other when giving context to the film. I found it very hard to follow from an audio perspective. But also at times I felt the film was way too dark, so it was hard to even see what we were supposed to be seeing. It would cut to something. We were supposed to be seeing him hold something, but I was in a dark cinema and I still couldn't quite make out what he was holding. So if you were at home in a broadly daylit living room, I think there's no way. But to be honest, I do think the majority of the issues I have with this film just lie in its final edit. I think this could have been a brilliant 90, 100-minute film, but for a 2-hour 10 film, I just don't think it quite had the substance to fill that entire runtime. It was a really interesting concept. There were some really cool scenes with really incredible effects. There were some really interesting characters and some interesting twists. But unfortunately for me, there was just a bit too much empty space between them. So did I enjoy the film? Yes, absolutely. There were some incredible scenes that blew me away. I just think its issues lie with the execution of the film as a whole. But I really hope Markiplier keeps making films. There is so much potential there, and already after opening weekend, this film has surpassed its budget. So he's making the money, he can put it into another one. Hopefully, some of the maybe more critical feedback he will improve on, but there are so many positive aspects that I want to see another go. But let me know in the comments, what did you think of Iron Lung? It's definitely a film that I've continued to think about after the fact, which is always a good thing. You want to stick in people's brains, and so let's keep that conversation going in the comments. And follow for more, I'm talking all things film.